Hey guys, how's it going? It is July 12th, 2018. And I think there's a storm, at least there appears to be, around Barstow. Yeah, sure. I saw the lightning. Yeah, I'll go up for that. Okay. Okay, I found the... That was a two-piece. Something. That was the second piece. Oh, there it is. storm eased off a bit. This is weird. I can't even select anything. That was dumb. I'm not saying a relinquished train, so I don't know what the hell's going on. That was weird. Usually when you come on, that's... So... does he have... oh, he does have, he does have some goodies here. Question is, are they trying to throw it into as Colton is, or I don't know, trying to get it out of here, which is another possibility. So yeah, I was looking at the work list, and there was a couple that needed dispatcher access, but yeah, I just kind of looked at it and said, yeah. I know it has to be done, but I was just, yeah. Awesome. That's a small train. So the idea here is this train's a little too big for, obviously, so the overflow is put in the other one. Now I'm not too sure if they're gonna want me into the big track there. I think that's where West Colton came from, or if they're gonna try to depart it. Yeah, I don't mind working at Barstow. That's not a problem. It's not too different from the other tasks, except working with a team's a little bit more interesting, so or just playing in as like utility conductor or stuff like that. I don't mind doing that. I mean, the only thing I was thinking of doing was, once I heard the storm was in Barstow, I was going to try to find something, but it's not a big deal. issue was. Curious. I was gonna say his pings are pretty good. Sometimes that's the issue, but stuff happens. Well, it's because I don't know. Yeah. Let's take a look here. this one out. Enjoy the sun. Sun going down. Virgin clear. This needle's looking nice, or yeah, the one thing. Yeah, not too busy out there. Channel 32 at Hinkley. Looks like the storm ended. Didn't last long. So anyways, yeah, I was going to get to kind of what I was thinking. I kind of put it in the title of this video. So basically, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on, and I think it goes back to the last video that I believe was the last video I did. Probably some of the ideas that I'm having in regards to scope of a server or scope of an operation. Whoops, I'm going too fast. So we got a good 50 minutes here. Plenty of time to talk about it. For me, it really, I guess it comes down to basically on a map this huge, there's so much that's needed. And I've always said that. I've said that for a very long time. And I know a lot of people love it, that this is such a huge network. And AI was a tremendous dam. Not a tremendous dam. It was a tremendous change from version 1 to version 2 that allowed us to see passing meets and all kinds of things. And I mean, this train could have easily been an AI train. Once we just did the manual work there. Now that's the key. That little manual work has to be done. But I'm just listening to the banner going on. So I'm gonna switch channels. There's a lot of yapping. I'm gonna go over to 13 here, or 32. Oh, or 65. There we go. Where's Mojave start? It starts technically. I'm gonna go to 65 anyways. Why not? There we go. So, oh, I'm up to 40 now. I probably switched a little too soon, but that's okay. I just want to make sure there was nothing. Well, I suppose if I wanted to make sure that anybody was talking to me, I'd be reading it, but I wanted to finish my thought. So, what had happened was I discovered basically and this has happened with every single incarnation of a route that I've tried since, you know, version 2 really took fire. There was a time where we had a lot of key people and stuff was getting done, and it was pretty cool. You know, we do our 20, you know, things. There was a time where it was really, really good. And what has happened as far as the California server now for Southwest Rails is amazing. That they've continued to be able to do this, but Mike has had to make sacrifices in order to make it happen. And there's only so much you can sacrifice, or there's only so much that you can do to try and make it. For most people, it's going to be fine. They're not going to worry about these kind of things. Maybe I do more, but I saw 2 jobs. Okay. So, number one, I was asked about this one, and nobody's forcing me to do it. They're just asking me because they're short on people. And that's why before I took this train, I said, was there anything else? And of course, my preference, or at least how I feel, is I want to take a mainline train out tonight. I just want to relax. So that's my preference. But you know, Clint was, you know, he asked me, he says, you only have limited time, you know, what do you want to do? And I was fine. I was like, okay, well, you're trying to get a train together in the yard. That sounds pretty cool. A double up move sounded really good. I didn't see that on the work list. Had I seen it, I may have jumped on that one anyways. The other two didn't seem that appealing, although it has to be done. But there's the whole thing. It has to be done. That's when it becomes more of a job than a hobby, when those things have to be done. Especially when there's a lot of things that have to be done. So eventually it falls on the people who are the admins that are running things. Eventually it falls on Mike's shoulders, if it doesn't get done. And there's others who, you know, of course, that they're going to try it out because they like doing it, which is great. It's great when you have a group of people who like to do various things, or like to do, you know, smaller tasks, or a bunch of smaller tasks, and get a lot accomplished, etc. What I'm doing right now is not really needed as much, although obviously you want to appeal to people like myself who just want to run trains. At least tonight, that is. This isn't always the case with me. I'm not always going to want to run trains. So again, this is where a smaller territory comes into play. You take a model railroad, for example, and I'm going to use the model railroad club that I belong to. There was a board of about... It was run off in a 24-hour session. Of course, 4 to 1 fast clock, totally different than what we do. And you would have, I believe they had 5 mainline. We had up to 5 mainline crews before I left the club. So up to 5 people at a time could be running trains. And if you couldn't fill up the crews, you know, they'd work with 3. So it would just be short the crews. There's no such thing as AI in model railroading. So you'd have your 5 crews. You would have the key positions that needed to be filled were dispatcher, a Romford operator, which is another one that I liked, could be, was also the Cartier dispatcher. So we actually had 2 dispatchers. We had a Cartier, we had the McCarroll subs dispatcher, which was an OCS, and Cartier, which was CTC. Now Cartier was different because the CTC hadn't been put in yet. So Cartier basically went on verbal CTC clearances alongside of Romford operator, which was a control panel with power switches inside a staging yard and a loop, including the switches for the junction. Although the switches became manual the last year that I was there, or manually remote by actually giving verbal permission. So that was going to be one of the first CTC installations. But that was going to be totally eventually controlled by Romford operator. I waited for years for that to happen. It never did. I was waiting for signals for years. It never happened. Eventually, I got tired of driving an hour and a half one way and an hour and a half the other way just to go be part of, you know, a group of half a dozen to maybe a dozen operators in the night, let's say, because you had your yard master, that was something. Then you had yard crews. So you had a yard master that worked the whole session. You had the dispatchers that worked the whole session. You had a bunch of crews that you could rely on, and you had Oh, I'm up to 55. I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing. So you had all these roles, and as I was saying the other night, what would happen is everybody had a preferential favorite. Now, if you were just joining the club, well, you know, you better be prepared. If you really want to, you better be prepared to take whatever you can, and usually that meant they needed road crews. Road crews were fairly straightforward. You just take the train and you run it. So from a model railroad's perspective, at least an operating model railroad, like with operations minded, it's actually not that interesting to be a mainline crew. It's a lot different than this when you're in a 3D simulator. This actually is kind of interesting. But when you're on a model railroad and you're just following your train through scenery, the only thing I can see it getting better is if they start installing CTC and you're actually looking at signals or something like that. Or if you're a work train or something like that, then I could see it. But otherwise, it is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the more boring things you could do. But everybody who joins the club, that's one of the first things you get shown how to do, is how to run a mainline train and follow clearance instructions and all that other stuff. That's one of the first things you do. Eventually, once you can formulate how to plan moves, you would get basically you could go into working as a yard crew, or you could go into a train that actually had a little bit of work and you're dealing with car cards and stuff like that. Mind you, a lot of the trains did it. So actually, I shouldn't say that, because I remember some of those jobs, a lot of those trains actually did work Sudbury, which was our main yard. It was kind of like what a Barstow is to, it's actually very similar to Barstow, except it's much smaller, it doesn't have a hump. But it acts as a division point. So it was really cool, to say the least. Oops, forgot there's a crossing here. So, running the yard crews was something I enjoyed doing once in a while. You know, the tasks were, yeah, you would move power around and stuff like that, but it didn't take that long, and you weren't dealing with DPUs like you do in California that much. Personally, DPUs are PITA as far as I'm concerned. They're just extra moves before you're really doing much of anything. I know it's prototypical, I get it. You need DPU power for California, but it's always been a pain for me. I've always found that even hustling power, especially on a 1-to-1, it's a lot different than a model railroad than it is a 1-to-1 scale. It takes a long time to get power and hustle it around and get it back in, compared to a model railroad. Even in our model railroad was fairly, like, about 4-to-1 scale, you got to think, well, everything is probably a fourth of the size. That's typically how it goes. But I get the speed control on this thing. Set that up, and then I'll just have to watch the speed carefully. I like this time of night running. But with that, you basically know this. The schedule pretty much is the same. The trains don't always run. There's passenger trains. Now the weird thing is when you're a crew, you just go on to whatever the next train is. You don't get to choose the trains, so you're basically as a crew, you take the next train that's being called up, which is actually very prototypical, to be honest. But like I said, on a server, not necessary. What is necessary, of course, on a server is that's operational is those various jobs that do require human interaction. So you get used to the certain jobs and everything like that. What ends up happening, at least I find, is you have a 3-hour session, and you're basically going through, you get 3 hours, you may get the train you want, you might not, and then you will not get another chance for that potential position until 8 sessions. That's how long you're going to have to wait. And even as I was running a server, there were sometimes jobs that I wanted, but you know, clients would get to it first or whatever. I'd have to run the server, blah blah blah, or I'd have to dispatch, or I was stuck in the hump, or you name it. When you're running a server, there's a lot more responsibilities as opposed to having fun. This is why I've enjoyed just running and being a client and not worrying about it. Mind you, I certainly have enjoyed being a utility conductor as well. I haven't minded that at all. So, I mean, that's cool. You know, doing what I just did there. If there was something else to do, you know, it would be no problem. But obviously, I wanted to shoot the breeze. That's why I thought, yeah, I'll just grab a train and shoot the breeze. So it's no big deal. And you're busy. You know, you don't get to shoot the breeze as much when you're concentrating on what's going on. Oh, I was gonna say, it looks like the clouds. It's just like, no, it's the window. No. Got me up to 6 at least. So that's where I fall into this whole thing, and then this is why I kind of thought, you almost, and I go back, I think I was along the right, I was on the right frame of mind, or the right idea, except how to do it, I wasn't sure. I hadn't really figured it out. And I started thinking a demand-based system would work better, but then I would always get away from it because I think to myself, okay, well, no, that wouldn't make any sense. And then I started thinking about, if you focus too much on what the prototype does, suddenly, especially when you do not have prototypical human players involved, in other words, we don't have the number of crews to run all that stuff at any given time, suddenly you can't do it. It becomes very unprototypical. I mean, one other thing too, and these are all things, sacrifices that Mike and anybody else has to make when running a server. The other one, of course, is the number of trains that are running on a territory. Like right now, back when we were running 100%, this could happen, but coming up. You know, so we're coming up to a train right now. There's a possibility you'd run on, you know, trains all over the damn place. Needles, it happens. I mean, Needles, yeah, the Needles would. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty busy down by Goff's area there, but other than that, you know, whoops. But now, see, after that, it's really quiet, and the Mojave sub is pretty much dead. So despite the fact that we have all these cool areas to switch, and you've got all this, sometimes too much is overkill. And this has nothing to do with the server or anybody who runs a server. This, to me, and I mean, this is the Run 8 team's idea as to their vision. So this is their home territory, California, and they've talked about new regions coming out. I have not heard any more information whatsoever since that was mentioned. It was very difficult to get the information that we got, and it came on a Facebook post. And I understand. You know, there's been health issues. There's been all kinds of things. I mean, even Jason, you know, got into health issues recently. So we're all human. I get it. Just like me. Take a look at, well, I know what I did last night, huh? I mean, what else is new with me? I got big ideas, and then when it comes to having to get down to business to do something, well, guess what? I procrastinate. I wound up watching videos of the thing that actually inspired me. So I suppose that was a good idea, but every instinct in me right now is saying, I want that game. So in other words, I want to become the consumer instead of the producer. Well, it's nice that I want to be the consumer, and it's only 20 some odd dollars. But how many games have I bought? You know, where it's only 20 bucks, oh, it's only 15 bucks. I haven't bought that many games. I mean, we have a good dozen Steam games, some of them free. But I actually left it in my son's hands. I said, because his birthday's coming up, I said, yeah, he didn't. I thought he was going to decide on it tonight, and he didn't. He was like, okay, I want to think about it. Because he knows. He knows my finances, so he's like, he's kind of reluctant because he thinks that eventually, what it is the game that inspired me was it's in Norway, Barents Sea, something or other, Barents Sea. Just look on Steam for Barents Sea, and there's YouTube videos out for it. It's really cool. I find it's cool, and it inspired me to think of some of the marine ideas around my neck of the woods. But what it is, and I'm not into fishing at all. We were running a we actually downloaded a Russian fish simulator tonight, or something like that. It's actually pretty cool. It's actually better than the one that we actually have, Fishing Planet, or whatever the hell it's called. You can actually get into a boat and move around a lake. It's pretty good, and my son kind of likes it too, and it's totally free. But I said, you know, I said, it's not really my cup of tea. But what got me about this game, this Barents Sea thing, is it's commercial fishing. Not only is it commercial, not only is it commercial fishing, but you get to go out and explore the whole area. It's like around Norway. you get to explore all these inlets and ports and all the it's Unreal Engine 4. It just looks fabulous. And the only thing it doesn't have, it's version 1.1. The only thing it doesn't have is really good. It doesn't have waves that actually start to rise, and I mean it has sway. It's kind of like it has a swaying of the engine, like this is. It'll sway back and forth, and it'll sway back and forth to have like the wave action. But it doesn't really have. It has dynamic weather, except when the weathers and the wind gets really strong, it doesn't really whip up the swells like you think it would. That'd be really cool, but I got a funny feeling that's coming because they do a lot of updates, these guys. And it's got AI boat traffic now. That's in version 1.1, so you can actually see cruise ships. There's actually tasks where you can actually take, you can actually accept jobs that you get, and it's all, you know, you make so much money or whatever, and then you have to spend money on fuel and tackle and bait and all kinds of other things, and your crews. You need crew members on some of the bigger boats, and it's you start. There's only like 6 boats or whatever, but you get to start out on these really cool. I don't know. If you've seen the movie Jaws, the boat that's in Jaws, that's what you get to start out on. And it's actually really, it feels like a rusty old relic, broken down fishing boat, but it's pretty cool. It's fun. You get to explore different. You got your sonar. You got the radio to call Mayday if you either I don't know if you break down potentially, or you run out of fuel. You can call the Coast Guard. So it's I mean, and the weather, you know, the day-night effects, the weather, the actual weather, like there was wet snow and sleet in the winter time, and so it was really cool to see these things play out. And you know, at night, the lights just of the ports, they just reflect off the water, and they not just they reflect off the water, but they have a steady wave action, not the dynamic wave action, but it's actually you know, you can see how it's moving. The light reflections are moving as the water's moving. It's really cool, and I'm hoping my son wants it because I want it. I may just get it for myself anyways and just spoil myself and say the hell with it, but it's just really cool. I was watching videos on it last night, and I mean, the only thing I could think of is after a while you get so many boats and you get so much money, and then it just becomes easy, and then what's the point? You're just racking in money and doing repetitive tasks. There's a lot of repetitive tasks. There's a lot of, you know, driving a boat around. But I think I'm okay, because look at me here, I'm driving a train around. What inspired me to start thinking of some of my other ideas as far as the Great Lakes goes, but apparently it hasn't inspired me enough to get over the procrastination issue that I'm having. So you're seeing the chat up in the corner, just to switch back on the topic of what we were saying. So there's a new user, Clint's one of the admins. So he's just explaining, you know, what happens, and it's doesn't happen like this on all servers. This is kind of something that Mike and I came up with back when this was the California server for RTS, and he's continued to do it here. What happens, of course, is the clock pauses, and then you go into you go into a yard thing. That got me going back into this, though. Like, I'm not worried about the procrastination thing. I'll just have to deal with it. That was just what my night was. The operations of this, though. I love the fact that, you know, basically what that person was looking for, he was looking to just take a train and run it the other way because he was at the end of his territory. That'd be like me going to Needles and saying, okay, now I want to run back, but no, you have to wait for a train. You either have to wait for a train to come into Needles, or you go find another train further back if you want to run the same territory, basically. But yeah, so back to where my idea was as far as yeah, I kind of had the idea before, and then I got away from it. But if you have a territory that doesn't take as much work, looks like I'm not cheap. Eventually, it just gets annoying. anyways, yeah, I won't say any more about that, but unfortunately, I wish there was a way you can take out channel 0, but still keep your channel on, but there isn't. But that's the way to do it. You go Control Tab and your chat disappears, and then you can pop it on every now and then if you want. But or you forget that you got rid of the chat and then you don't see it. So yeah, what was I saying? I got distracted. So you have like only a certain number of trains. You can have a lot more main lines. That doesn't really matter so much. The thing is, the more main lines you have, the more you need a dispatcher on a regular basis. You take away the main lines, it's not such a big deal. The only thing I can think of with the idea that I had is, so let's say the prime time for most people would be, as I was mentioning before, from say 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. So you have that 12-hour window where it might actually run sim clock from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Right now it's 8:45, so this would be kind of like 3:45 in the morning in the on the East Coast, let's say. So you still have a lot of potential for people around the world to get in on the main sessions. Of course, I mean, like for me, I mean, if you were running it real time, then there'd be a lot of work or a lot of jobs that I just couldn't do on a weekday, and then weekends, well, who knows? And there's sometimes there's times where I just want to run stuff at night. Well, if I want to do that, then the only way to do it really is to run on a weekend or run in the winter, and you might get to run, you know, different things like that. But you know, I have limited trains. I mean, where I am, most of the activity, actually the afternoons become lulls, and they run a lot of trains at night. I see that happen. Not only do I see it happen in my area, but I see it happening in Fostoria, for example. It really starts to pick up at night. Sometimes there'll be a lot of afternoon lulls. But a lot of this, I would say a lot of the switching gets done during the day. All the passenger trains, at least the local passenger trains, would be run during that time. So I love California because it is a big network. I love the fact that it's got so many trains, so you get to see so many things. But at some point, you either have to go with, do you like to see that many trains, or do you actually want to have jobs that are familiar to you, that anybody can pick up and have their favorites, but then it would become something that would be very familiar to everyone, and they would have maybe their favorite, their second favorite, their third favorite. They get to bid on it, or you know, first come first serve, I suppose, or maybe some type of bidding system, I don't know, but they would get the shot at it. So if they wanted to dispatch, well, they'd have their shot at it. It wouldn't be as busy as California to dispatch, because after all, the less trains, you know, all of a sudden you're dispatching a territory of whatever. There won't be as much. And then it becomes like a demand system. So if you were expecting to run so many trains and you don't have a dispatcher, well, the trains wind up going into anarchy. And when they go into anarchy, the trains may move or they may not move depending upon who else is on the server to allow it to happen. Otherwise, they all become crew changes, even if they're AI, because nothing is able to get the trains to move. So you need at least, I would say, a few people you can count on that know how to dispatch. It would become a very key position. Certain yards would become key positions as well, but not necessarily, you know, locals, etc. But it wouldn't be the end of the world, basically. Starting to wonder. realized I never had an EOT set up. Saw the yellow light there. I'm like, whoops. I did an auto EOT. Somehow got the lights to work in the back, but oh well. Oops. Just look down. That's okay. I think I'm gonna shut her down anyways. Yeah, it's a little tough too, like, you know, when I only have 90 minutes, but it is what it is. Yeah, that was like when I was saying about some of the ideas, the whole concept of doing the RTS with the 2D and all the other stuff was to, one, not have to worry about obviously doing an entire train simulator, but trying some of these proof of concepts like the AI dispatcher and AI crews and stuff like that. So who's got that? Me? That ain't me. I don't think. I'm not sure how long I was, to be quite honest, but no, I can't be that long. No. Gotta say, I shouldn't be that long. I never expected West Colton. Oh wow. I gotta see this. Ford's Cajon and Palmdale. Oh, okay, wait a minute, hang on a second. Oh, yeah. It's gotta be here. Holy crap. It's bad enough the AI trains put 4 engines on the front. Holy crap. That's hilarious. It's got mid-trains. Whoa. Wow. The HPT on this thing. Oh Jesus. Maybe I can isolate an engine or something. Oh, 2.6. Let me do a quick calculation here. Six. Yeah, if one of the 4 was isolated by the time it hit Mojave, I wouldn't isolate it until I got to Mojave. But you take one of those engines offline, I think that wouldn't give you more than 2.223. Crazy. How far down did it make it? It made it to through Slover. Okay. Okay. Oh, that cleared the signals. That's a good sign. Okie dokie, exit this. So, yeah, we got the weekend now, so I don't know when I'm coming back on. I mean, I probably will come back on, and I probably won't come back on with Run 8 if I get my way, or if Kiddo decides the way I'm thinking. That's probably gonna actually. Well, we'll see. But everything else, who knows what's going on. That's just something I'm going to have to deal with, the procrastination as far as getting development going again. Plus, it's the summer, and maybe I'm being too hard on myself. I don't know. But anyways, I didn't feel too good about it yesterday, and today I was kind of... Actually, sorry. Yeah, today I was kind of down on myself about it, too, because it's like, here I am, I'm posting a video, and I'm getting, like I said, brilliant idea, because I know me. I know what I'm like. Even some of my haters know what I'm like. But I still, I still want to do it. I've done it before. There's no reason why I can't do it again. It's maybe I'm just a little bit scared to fail. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't mind failing, but failed enough times with it. No, I'm not scared to fail. Failed enough times with server relaunches and everything, so I'm not afraid to take chances. So, but yeah. I don't know. So it's 11:07. I'm going to call it the night. And I will be back whenever. Should be on the session on Tuesday as well. I'll still be doing the Tuesday, Thursday things. At least for the foreseeable future, as far as I'm concerned. It's, fun to come on and just have a little bit of fun with Run 8. Because it's about all there is right now for me for Run 8. Like I said, the ideas that I have, I really don't think I'm going to do anything with them. It's just stuff that I'm throwing out there, and I really haven't thought about it too much, but I don't want to. I'd have to purchase another Run 8 software. I would have to put a server up. Either that, or this becomes the server, and I go put it on my son's computer, and that's it. But then I give up being a client. No thanks. I'd rather still have fun being a client, so unless I put the rail driver over there and run it off my son's computer, but I doubt that. I'd lose the big screen. I don't want that. No, this isn't becoming a server again. Not in its current form. It's things have to change. Run 8 has to... I understand they're human. I get it. I mean, heck, I can't even get started in programming some of my ideas, let alone. I mean, these guys are doing great, and I mean, it's nothing to do with the money or anything like that. Yeah, they're making money. So what? I could make money too if I put my mind to it, but unfortunately, like I said, it's procrastination. I don't know what else it is. I have no idea. It's just I enjoy running things and playing with things more than I do creating things. At least that's what it seems at the moment. So, but like I said, I was down on myself today. Today was pretty cool. It was just fun to relax a little bit. It was a good day work-wise. Otherwise, I was kind of still down. But anyways, yeah. So that's all. I'm just babbling now. But we'll see what happens with this other program, and then who knows? By the time fall comes around, things could change again. And we'll see what happens. We'll just have to play it a little at a time. And but it's no, I was getting to a point about with Run 8. They have to, in my opinion, not just they got to reach out. But they to me, and I know they're human, I get it, but I just don't. I have no faith in what they're doing anymore. You know, I'm enjoying this program. It's sad because I enjoy this program. I want to see it evolve further, but I don't know what's happening with this TSCAT. We don't know what's happening with anything, and it's pretty sad because I enjoy trains. I enjoy it's like if I only had the expertise and confidence to be able to do even close to what they're doing. RTS was nothing. RTS was text-based processing. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at business development. I'm not good at graphics. So this is kind of, I think the roadblock I ran into this week was like, okay, well, yeah, it's one thing dreaming about doing some of these kind of scenes like that. It's another thing when you actually have to get in there and physically do it. It's a lot different. That's why the whole 2D approach was probably much more realistic for me, but still, we'll see. I don't know. We'll just see. I'm starting to depress myself again, which sucks, because I just had fun and I wasn't even thinking about it. But anyways, that's it, guys. That's all I gotta say on that for now. I got the weekend to think about things and with the kiddo for the weekend anyways, so we'll see what happens next week. Anyways, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you later.